Hello, my friend, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Fool Writes Again, the podcast where I, Jinx, your host and imaginary friend, answers the burning question of what happens when you release a writer into the wild and gets a chance to explore the world. For those of you who like to read and for those of you who like to write, this is the podcast for you because I plan to discuss topics such as plot development, world building, character creation, and even character motivation. If any of that intrigues you, please stay tuned. With that being said, let's get this show on the road. Starting off this episode like all my others, I have a scenario for you. Imagine that you grew up in the exact same small town that your family and generations before you lived in. And your town was so small, in fact, that you only had 20 people in your graduating class. You didn't think much of it as you grew up. You just liked the fact that you knew everyone in town. You knew where everyone lived. You knew the names. You knew their jobs. You knew when someone was born. Everything about it. And it was perfect for you. Unlike your friends who, as soon as they graduated high school, they started to leave. They started joining the military, going to college, traveling, moving out of the city into bigger cities, and you thought they were crazy for doing it. Eventually, your graduating class of 20 has now dwindled down to just one. You are the only one remaining in that town, but you're still friends with them. You're friends on Facebook, you follow them on Instagram and all the social media networks, and you see what they're up to and they see what you're up to, and you can tell that they're enjoying their lives. They're going out into the world, exploring and traveling, and you occasionally like their photos that they post of going to Bali and seeing the blue water, going to Rome and seeing the Colosseum, going to Brazil and seeing the Christ the Redeemer and enjoying Carnival and all the different parties and music festivals they're going. But you know that is not your life and you enjoy your little small family that you have in your same town. And then your 10-year high school reunion shows up and it's held in your town, and gradually all your friends start coming home with their families and their stories, and you're sitting there listening to them all tell their tales of what they've done, and you're starting to get jealous. You didn't know this was a side of you that you could have had. Hearing about your friend going to Bali and cliff diving into the waters and seeing the different sights there, and then taking a boat and going over to see Thailand and all that, you're jealous of it. You're jealous of your friend who went to Jordan and got to see the city of Petra and then hopped over to Egypt to see the pyramids and ride a camel, and your friends who went over to Europe and saw the Colosseum and all these amazing things. And you are regaled by their tales. Eventually comes to your chance to say its story, and you don't have anything to tell. You worked in the same job for the last 10 years. You now have a wife and a kid on the way, and that's it. Everyone else has these amazing tales, and they look at you like you're crazy. This is your life, and you really enjoy it. So fast forward to the next day, and everyone's going home, and you don't like the fact that they look down on you for having no stories and no adventure in your life. You want to change that for the next time you see them at the next reunion. So you contact a travel agent and decide you're going to book an adventure and trip to a foreign country. You briefly talk it over with your friends and family, see recommendations, but you disregard it because you want your own story to make them all jealous. You choose a place that none of them have been, that there have been no pictures of. You don't know the language of it. It's a country you've barely heard of, and that works for you. You have a story that you plan on telling at the next reunion. You go on your trip, you get to your hotel, and you're not too crazy. You still know this is a place you've never been, so you decide you're going to join a tour group and have someone show you around the place. Someone that can actually speak the language and hopefully translate for you. And you get to your hotel and see that there's going to be a tour group meetup in the evening, and you just have to meet in the lobby. And you don't really want to adventure by yourself, so you stay in your room until then. The agreed upon time arrives, you go there, you see there's a large circle of chairs, you take one, and gradually the rest of your tour group filters in and takes the other chairs. Your tour guide shows up, and he starts you off by introducing himself, saying how long he's been a tour guide, why he likes to do it, and he asks for everyone to introduce themselves. Gradually, the group goes, and you hear everyone's reason for it. There's lots of different reasons that you never would have imagined. People are showing up because they want to try the food. People want to come and see the sights. Some people just want to tour. Some want the history. Some just had time off and it was the closest and cheapest trip they could take. Eventually, it comes to your turn, and it's now up to you to say what your reason is for going to that country. What do you tell them? Now, I may have exaggerated the story to an extreme bit, but it gets the point across. There are lots of reasons people want to travel, and everyone has their motivation for it. My reason, I really did just watch my friends go across the world and follow their pictures on Instagram, and got super jealous of it. The only place I'd really been was a couple different states, and mind you, I was not so enclosed to the point where I never left my city. I've traveled a lot in my country, I just barely left my country. But seeing all my friends who had left the country and seeing all their pictures made me jealous. My friends who went to Bali, the water does look so blue and I really want to see it. My friends who've gone to Europe, I want to see all the sights there and the history and the different countries and stuff. The only place I'd really can claim to go is Mexico. And Mexico is fun, don't get me wrong. I enjoy it every time I go, but I wanted something different, something a lot of my friends have never been and gone to. So I worked with my travel agent and we found a trip for me. I decided to go to Peru for a couple different reasons. First off, when I went to Mexico the first time, I went and saw Chichen Itza, one of the wonders of the world, and that was amazing. And I decided then that I want to see the other wonders of the world. And I made a list of them: the Great Wall of China, Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, the Colosseum in Rome, Petra in Jordan, Machu Picchu in Peru, Taj Mahal in India, and if I wanted to, I could go see the ancient wonder, the only one left, the pyramids in Egypt. After making the list, I started crossing other things off. Some of them are more difficult for me to see right now, and I will wait a couple years before I try. Others, like as much as I want to see the Colosseum, that has to be a really long trip for me because I know I'm not going to want to just stay in Rome. I'm going to be a little more expensive. After narrowing my list down, I settled on Peru. It's one place, one country. I won't be tempted to go to another country there, and there's still a lot of stuff I can do there. And I relatively speak Spanish. I can get by. Not perfect, but I can get by. And I booked a trip to Peru, and I booked a tour group to go there with. And it was a fun group. But I did get there and sit with my tour group the first night, and we all gave our reasons for why we were there. My reason being, I wanted to see Machu Picchu, one of the wonders of the world. That was my spoken reason. My other reason is I kind of wanted to make my friends jealous that I went to Peru. But sitting there in the room, I did listen to everyone's reasons for being there. Some people really did just have a spur-of-the-moment trip to go and chose one that was relatively cheap and close to when their time was off. Others did want to go and try the different food, whether it was alpaca and guinea pig. Others wanted to see historical sites, Machu Picchu or any of the other ruins set up there. Some people wanted an adventure and they wanted to go see the Nazca lines in the desert so they could fly over it, or they can go sandboarding in the dunes. What I learned is that everyone has a reason to travel. It may not be what you expected, and it is also very uncommon that an entire tour group will have the exact same reason for it. I mean, my roommate for most of the trip, he chose Peru because he had just come from the Galapagos Islands and Ecuador, and he still had time off, so he decided to just go to Peru because the flight was cheap. My roommate, the Inca Trail, his motivation for going there was just to hike, to the point when he got to Machu Picchu, he was disappointed. He had so much more fun on the Inca Trail, and it was so much cooler to him than the historical site, and he would have rather continued hiking. His reason was different than a lot of others. But as a writer, I can use all this now. When I have a tour group in my books or any of my characters decide to travel somewhere else, I know how to give them a motivation for why they're going different places. I can give them a reason that seems realistic and fits their character. Everyone on my tour group that I was with, I documented it. I kept track of what everyone's reason was so I could store it and save it and use it for later. And mind you, everyone on my tour group in Peru knew I was collecting inspiration for stories, and they were willingly giving it to me. But again, when you're creating your characters and they're traveling to another country or another city even, or a state, they need a reason that fits them. You don't want to choose a character that is absolutely terrified of trying new food and only sticks with chicken nuggets and french fries when he goes out to eat. Don't give him a reason that doesn't fit him. That character is not going to travel to Peru to try guinea pig because that is not his personality. But the same character, he might be a historical buff and really want to see the historical sites in Peru. So that is his motivation for going there, is he wants to see the sites, not the food. But he may get to Peru and realize that everyone in his group is trying new things and he is willing to try guinea pig for the first time and expand his horizon. It's not his main motivation for being there, but while he's there, he might experience it and realize, oh, look, I do like food. I do eat things other than chicken nuggets. But the motivation kind of has to fit the character, or your reader is going to be very confused on why they're there. You don't want to confuse your reader with their motivation. Why did this character go to Peru? He wants to see history. Your readers will love it. He wants to just try all the food there. He doesn't even want to try the food at home, so why would he travel to another country to try their food? Your readers will hate it. Motivation's important, and every time I travel now, I'm going to start collecting everyone's motivation for why they're there and just keep storing it. Some of them I will create stories and worlds. We have to have some creativity there. All we're doing when we travel the world is gathering inspiration, because you're supposed to write what you know, but you don't need to write exactly what happened, because you're not writing a biography or nonfiction potentially. You're writing stories. As a fiction and horror writer, I'm going to gather all the inspiration I can and exaggerate upon it. And I can use different motivations and change it up for whatever I need. As a horror writer, I can take any of my other motivations potentially and turn them into a horror story or horror motivation. If I want an adventure novel, I can give my character the reason to go somewhere else because he wants to find the lost city of gold in Peru. He grew up watching movies about it and hearing about it, so his motivation is to find that lost city. If I want a horror story there, my character is not going to Peru of his own volition. He's fleeing there. Everything at his home is worse than what he could potentially find in another country. He's being hunted by people in his home country and town, and he needs to flee for his life, so he chose a place that no one would expect him to go to, one that anyone's never heard of. And that's his reason for getting there. But in his flight to the other country, he left a clue, a small little clue of where he was going. So his hunters back home have now followed him to the new country, and he's still trying to flee them in another country where he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't speak the language, and he's struggling. That'd be a terrifying story, but it's another motivation for going somewhere else. And that's what we're trying to find out, is the inspiration for why people travel. But unfortunately, my friend, this is where I have to leave you and call it a day. But before I do, I have a scenario for you. Write a story about an individual who got jealous of all his friends traveling to other countries that he wanted to make them jealous in return. So he chose a country that no one had ever heard of and he doesn't speak the language of. He gets there and realizes that he went to the wrong country. What happens in that story? Now, I don't care what genre of story you write, or if it's flash fiction or a long novel. All I care about is that you have fun with it and make it your own. It can inspire you to write more, and that's great, as long as you're just having fun with it. Now, if you enjoyed the content of today's episode, please like and subscribe. And if you have any writer friends out there, please send them my way. I'd love to have them listening. Thank you again for listening and tuning in. And please be on the lookout for the next episode, where Jinx answers the question of what happens when you release a writer into the wild and he discovers the world of wargaming. Ta-ta and have a good one.